Hey guys, just another human here. This time I'm back with top placing regionals and treasure cup winners, Nicky, John, and Dylan. We have three special guests with me, and each of them placed pretty high in the respective events. We have the Nicky in top four for regional. We have Dylan top four for the treasure cup. We have John, winner of the Church Cup and top 8 in regionals. So you guys,
Hello.
introduce you guys yourself.
Uh,
You want to go first, Nicky?
yeah, I'll go first. Yeah, I'm Nicky. Nicky Goldman. I started playing One Piece like middle of set one. Yeah, and I've been playing WoW ever since.
I'm Dylan Chu. I've been playing basically since the start of set one. I actually only picked up Law because of Nikki after getting constantly destroyed in certain playtesting sessions. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna pick it up too.
My name's John Nguyen. I started playing One Piece as soon as it dropped, I think, December 2nd. I only found out about the game like 2 weeks beforehand, so I was scrambling to get cards and whatnot. But I started off with Zoro, played my first Treasure Cup with Zoro, decided it wasn't for me anymore, and went to Luffy for a little bit, for the rest of the patch, set one, and then went over to Whitebeard for the 2 weeks for set two. Realized it wasn't that good, or I didn't really like it because it was too inconsistent, and then went back to Luffy.
Yeah, but you went back to Luffy and you took a win. Nicky's been destroying people with law, as I can tell, and it seems like all three of you are from the same area. So three people, same area, back to back events, doing well. That's amazing.
Yeah, we're all locals here, so like me, Nikki, and Dylan, we play against each other at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, the SoCal area is just goated. Like just even the people that we play at these locals, they're actually like extremely good.
Yeah, I think it's also like crazy because I think it was around 15 of us that went to Arlington, and I think five of the there was like 5 to 6 of us that ended up in top 32. So that's a pretty high conversion rate.
That's definitely very high. Amazing. Congratulations to all of you. So we're gonna go jump right into it. We're gonna start with Law, as you can see. Dylan Chu, top four in the core TCG Treasure Cup, and Nicky Goldman, play TCG in-person regional in Arlington, Texas, top four.
Yeah, we both got third.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ended up third.
It's that third place curse. You gotta get past that. Get past the third place. Get second. Get first. Anything. John's one step ahead of you two right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, me getting third is a tiebreaker.
Yeah. All right. Going right into it. Our very standard here. Our Beach, Bonnie, Tony Chopper, and Tama. Like, do you guys ever change anything on the ratios for these four?
Yeah, if we play five, I have six, I would.
Yeah, you just want to max them out because not only are they just like good cards in general, like their effects are just broken, but like being able to play as many weenies as possible early and getting to like 5 cards on board as fast as possible is like the goal.
For sure. You want to make sure you're able to shamble and get your law effect as much as you can.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, gotta optimize your leader if you're playing before life.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
And here we have the spicy parts that we normally don't see in a typical law deck. We have Dogura, starter deck Nami, and a 4-off Machina. Like most law decks I've seen, or at least seen people play, are on 2 or 3 Machina. Here we have 4, and we're using starter deck Nami and the Dogura as well. Care to explain each of these?
So with Makiro, when I was building this deck, it was an instant four of because when I'm building decks, I value consistency like the most. So just maxing out on my counts of like cards I can hit off the Dan. And also one big other thing is just there was nothing better to put in it. Like I'm not one to play like only 2 of a card, especially if it's not searchable. So like I wouldn't play like Cat or Izo or just like other like unsearchable cards. And I don't even count the like ones that look at top 5 like search cards. I want I like in order for me to like tech a card in my deck, I need to be able to like just take it out of my deck instantly.
Yeah. Any thoughts on it, Dylan? As we know, we
Uh,
did see Nicky is the originator of this.
yeah. Funny enough, when we were playtesting the set, I before the set came out, I told him like, dude, Law's gonna be broken. There's gonna be this card that lets you cheat out a one drop, and I completely forgot about it. And during playtesting, he's like, dude, what happened to that card that you were telling me about that lets you cheat out a one drop? And I kept telling him, like, dude, there's no card like that exists. And then we had to go through bulk that no one wanted, and was like, dude, he's talking about this card. I was like, oh, dude, I totally forgot that was a card. And that's actually how we like dug it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like playtesting a bunch of different versions, and I just didn't like Nami at all. It just kept whiffing, or it would add like a jet pistol that was worthless. It would add Brook that was worthless, and like I see people are now playing Radical Beam, and that's also worthless. And my theory with this deck is just events are really bad. They don't advance your game state at all.
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because you prefer speed over just passiveness. Because events are passive. Broke is passive. You want to be the aggressor, the one starting the plays.
Pretty much. And then with Dawn Nami, that actually was in my list even in set 1. I think the card is insanely broken. It allows you to just hit 5k with your 3 power cards, like the 3,000 power cards, in the middle of the turn, like really effectively, while also just doing like a normal like leader effect turn. And one important thing is it allows you to hit Whitebeard every single turn. Like the moment you play this, you can hit them every turn while being able to just establish a board and play your turn the same.
Yeah, that's definitely important, especially in a format where you may or may not see Whitebeard. And if you see it, being able to get that 6k is all the difference.
And it's just more targets with Dedan.
Definitely. An extra target is always nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think during playtesting he originally cut the Nami because he was like Nami bot so couldn't search Nami, and then he just like, you know what, let's just completely cut out Nami, like set 1 Nami, and that's how that kind of happened. And like slight note on the Makino, it's also because it's like a Dedan target, so again makes your deck way more consistent, and then you can do stuff with Dogura way more consistently
Yeah, let's go back.
because of multiple the one drops. And then like I think there's like an easy play where me and him both like to do a lot. With the Don Nami and the Makino is where if you have Don Nami on board, you play the Makino for 1 Don, use its effect to buff Nami to 4, and then you use Don Nami's effect to use the 1 Don that you used to play Makino to swing for 5.
Yeah, that is your 5k Nami, even your normal standard Nami right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's basically becoming and it also like basically floods the board
Yeah.
while doing so, as opposed to just a regular Nami, right? And in a sense that it also protects, it has like multi-purposes use, as opposed to just set 1 Nami, play the Nami, and that's all it does for the rest of the board.
Yeah, it ends up just sitting there and doing nothing for who knows how long. And after a while, you just bounce in your hand, and now it's just a 1k counter.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But
And I guess we should mention the Dogura play too, with like the leader effects on turn 2. So if you see, so if you go second, you're seeing 8 cards by the time you have 4 Dawn, if they swing at you, of course.
Mhm.
And in those 8 cards, as long as you saw a Dogura turn 1 with 4 other like 1 drops, one of them being a red, and just like a card to swap into, you're able to like establish like a 6k body really early and like a full board, and it's actually really impressive. Like the game's pretty much over the moment you do that.
yeah. But you mentioned it being the Dawn targets. Now let's see how many total targets you have for the Dawn. We have 12 right here. 4 Dogura, 4 Nami, 4 Makinos. And then we have 8 more here. 20 choppers and 4 automa. That is 20 total targets. That's a lot. That's a little less than half the deck.
Yeah. A little spoiler, but yeah, it's 20 targets for Dedan and then 21 targets for Bonnie.
Wow.
So we made this deck as consistent as possible.
Yep. As we can see here, we do have our 4 Dadan, 4 Vista, 4 Zoro. Very standard here. And
I think the only thing. Oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
The only thing non-standard here is a Zoro. I've seen so many people cut Zoro or just run the other Zoro, the starter deck Zoro, and I think that starter Zoro is terrible. Like the moment I see a Law player running that, I think the game is like so much easier.
Yeah, from what I can tell, that starter deck Zoro is a more of a passive play and specifically for Whitebeard. Like outside of Whitebeard, that Zoro it doesn't feel as good as your Rush Zoro in normal cases.
It's just it doesn't even feel good against Whitebeard because like you're putting one Dawn on it to make it 7, but if you just put one Dawn as a Zoro, it's 6 anyways. So no matter what, you're taking a card out of their hand. It's I don't know. I don't see it.
All right, but the rest of it, Curly, the Dawn, Vista, can't go under 4, especially with all the Law decks out there.
Like, those cards are too broken. Vista just like wins you the mirror.
Yeah,
I think the Dan and Vista, the 2 red cards that you see on the screens are like the 2 best red cards right now, and those are the only cards that are actually like not searchable in the deck.
Yeah, they're not searchable, and you need to see them. Like if you play in a match, no matter what matchup you're going against, you want to see them. Well, Vista less so if you're playing against like Whitebeard because it doesn't really do much on them, unless they start playing Boatbeard and have their blocker.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then if you're playing against Luffy or Zoro, Vista's just crutch.
Yeah, Vista is definitely clutch in those matchups. And right here, we do have our standard 4-off Shambles Law. And the difference between your 2 decks. Dylan, right, you're playing 2 Rush Luffys and 4 Restand Law. While Nicky, you're on 3-3. Your thoughts on these 2?
I guess I can start with this one. So originally the list started with 4-2, with the current list that I'm playing. That's how the list originally, because we were playing card for card count for the longest time.
Yeah.
And eventually he started to branch off to testing other cards, and I started to branch off testing another card. I tested X-Ray, and I didn't really like it. And then I just went back to standard law because I did feel like I couldn't get enough testing with another card. And then I'll pass it to Nicky on why he decided to play 3 Luffys.
Yeah, so the reason why I upped Luffy to 3 is because I noticed I needed like playing Luffy early. Actually, against Whitebeard, I don't even try to play the blocker law. I just play Luffy, and even actually in the mirror too, because if they don't have an Otama or if they don't have enough attacks to swing at this Luffy, then it sticks on your board, and you pretty much gain so much advantage from it sticking on the board. And it's just a lot easier for it to stick to because they need Otama to swing multiple times on it, and they just need to have multiple swings, and it's really hard to do that like turn 3, especially if you get it out on turn 2. And having multiple unblockables later in the game is really helpful against green and against the mirror too.
Yeah. My personal struggle is even in the mirror, if there's a lot of blockers, Luffy's just there for you. It does everything you want, and then the restand doesn't feel as good for that specific mirror because it's only good if you have something to help it. It doesn't support itself, while Rush Luffy just supports itself as is by himself.
Yeah, exactly. And like another reason why I upped it is because I noticed that a lot of the times when I use Bonnie and I don't have blocker law in hand, I need to save the Bonnie somehow, and resending it is sometimes not enough because you're playing against red and they can just visit it. Yeah. So being able to bounce back the Bonnie and just play Luffy and save the Bonnie is really important.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I also wanted to interject. I was having like a week where a week and a half where all I saw were my red card weenies, and I just really wanted a green, so that's why I didn't decide to go with the 3/3 because sometimes I just really like shambling in a 6K beater that has no effect. I felt like was a little bit better sometimes because when I was only seeing red cards, I just wanted to have a shambles target.
Yeah.
Yeah. The red green ratio is definitely important for this deck specifically, and that is your entire list right here. There's no event, like you said. Event slows the deck down. There's not a single event in here. It's all character cards, and they all have some kind of effect, and that puts you ahead. That wants to put you as far ahead as possible. And the first list here is Dylan's. As you can see, with the 2 Luffy, 4 Law. And next list is Nicky's with 3 Luffy, 3 Laws. But the total count we have, what is it? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 28, 32, 35 red cards and 15 green cards in Nicky's list. And then Dylan's is 1 less red at 34 and 16 green cards.
And if you notice,
consistent as possible. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
about that.
everything has like an instant value when you play it, and I think that's really important to the deck. Just being able to get like instant value.
Yes. Even Nami right here, if it's able to get its effect off more than once, it already paid for itself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now maybe use it more than once, pays for itself. Otama, once it's out, you're most likely killing something. So it's doing something already. Makino, if you're playing it, it's either using an effect or it's being a shambles target. Dogura, extra body, shambles target. Dadan, it's searching something. Vista, it's probably hitting something. You get so much value in the whole deck right here.
And everything can just swing. Your 3K bodies can you put 2 down on it, swing. All your 1-drops, you buff it up with Makino and swing. So like not only are you getting the value out of like playing the card, but you're also like you're able to put pressure.
Alright. So now before we go into your matchups and whatnot, let's go through John's list. John, you ready?
Sure.
Alright, John. As we know, we have John, the CoreTCG Treasure Cup winner, and top 8 regionals at PlayTCG Arlington. How do you feel when you won the Treasure Cup and then top 8?
I don't know. For me, it was like my first big event win. So I really didn't understand how I would feel. But afterwards, I guess I was a little excited. I was sad to have to play Dylan in the finals and take that away. But at the same time, it was really fun because I got to play against someone I knew. And so we just had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you two did. And we didn't mention it earlier, like you said, Dylan and John being 2 local friends, meeting face to face in the finals, going head to, like, that's something that doesn't normally happen. Like, even myself, I only happened once with a friend of mine. I ended up losing. So I lost that time when I played for the finals. But here, you won. You won that finals there.
It definitely was the best case scenario for us because as we were climbing up and getting to the round 7, 8, and 9, I was always checking on Dylan's score to make sure that he was going through. And then after every round, I was just praying that I wouldn't see him before the finals. And when we got matched up at the end and I saw that he won, I actually gave him a call and I was like, yo, let's just have fun. And that's exactly what happened. So I was really happy.
Yeah, glad you two had fun. But here we go, going straight into the list. So we have for Nami. You're playing Luffy. You have to play for Nami. Your deck's essentially all straw hats. Otama, Dada on target, and you're out. Makino, pretty standard here. Now here is where it's different. 4 Gordons, 4 from the film deck. There's definitely a reason for this, and we're gonna see why in the next page. Let's go. So we're gonna go right into it now. we have 4 Mass Deuce. I would assume that Gordon is the 4 off because of Mass Deuce, Nico Robin, and Vista.
Yeah, basically, I think the Gordon really helps with being able to be flexible on what you want to do. For example, if they have like a standing 5 drop, then and you have a Mass Deuce on the field, then you have a potential to pop it. The Mass Deuce is really really good against green, red, and red green law. So usually, if I see those, I'm searching for them, and my the goal, like the entire goal of this deck is really try to control. I know that I'm playing Luffy, and people think that Luffy is just go face or like rush go face, but for me, how I see it is I'm always trying to control the board and figuring out the best value. And also at the same time trying to surprise my opponent about in terms of sequencing. So if I could remove something or hit something, everything I'm trying to do is trying to extract as many cards away from them as possible. And yeah.
Yeah, like going at the start of the set here, a lot of people, myself included, I'm gonna throw myself under the bus too. We thought Mass Deuce, what's this? It's not that good. It's just not a lot of value. And now we have you 4 Mass Deuce getting so much value whenever you played it, and it is a 2K counter. What are your thoughts to everyone that thought Mass Deuce was not good?
I honestly don't know if people thought it was bad. I think people kind of just looked over it. For me, going back to like set 1, I was trying to play like Beppo in Zoro, and when I switched to Luffy, I also played 2 Beppos in Luffy too. I just really liked how the theme of the deck is popping stuff, but also hitting for 5. And for me, like Beppo was only because I wanted to see a budget Nico Robin, and I think it was like a 2 drop, but it also had 2K attack, which meant that if I wanted to hit for 5, I had to put 3 Dawn on it to it. But in this case, Mass Deuce, it's a 2 drop, and you only have to put 2 Dawn on it to go to 5, and that felt a lot better. And it's also the fact that it's a 2K counter as well. So for any matchups where I see the card too late, or it's just not a good like a good thing to drop it down, it's always at the end of the day a 2K counter.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of decks that did run the Gordon. They're actually not on 4 as you like your list have. They're usually on 2 or 3. Your thoughts on why you're on 4?
Oh yeah, I think Gordon is just it's just insane. Like looking back at some of my games, being able to use like Gordon to pop laws by Gordon Vista, or even the Dolphy matchup. I think even at the regionals, I surprised. I think I played against 3 Dolphys, and I was able to pop their Mihawks with Gordon and Jet Pistol, the 9-drop Mihawk, which really threw him off because for 5 Dawn, or 5, yeah, basically for 5 Dawn, I was able to waste their entire turn.
Yeah, 5 Dawn for a 9 Dawn play. Kind of value there. That's a +4 right there.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just really good because if they have something standing, it doesn't really matter as long as it's a 6-drop or lower. I'm able to pop it in some way or form.
Yeah.
Which at the same time, a lot of the matchups dropping Gordon down, if you know that Gordon can't be popped, for example, Daffy basically Daffy. You can just drop it down, and then all of a sudden they have to account for your Gordon and potentially what could be in your hand or what couldn't be in your hand. So it really throws them off their game.
Yeah, and even against green, I'm gonna say like it has value too. The only way to remove it is either they already have a Kiko on board, but if they do, you're probably not playing it, or they waste 2 or 3 extra Dawn for the Cat Viper or the Ezo. You're getting cards out of their hand just to remove their body, and they're using Dawns just to do so as well.
Yeah, I think the worst case scenario would be like them dropping like a Yamato, but I'm not too worried about it. Sometimes if I know that I just need like a blocker, because this deck doesn't actually run blockers. Gordon actually turns into one if I want it to be, because I can drop it down, and then at the same time they'll want to Yamato 6-drop, or is it? four drop Yamato.
Four drop. Yes.
The four drop Yamato 6K. They'll rest it and then hit into it, which essentially turns my Gordon into a chopper.
Yeah, it's definitely nice. If you're able to apply pressure of a card, it becomes a blocker. Makino, same thing. When you tap it to pump a card, it becomes a blocker because they want to hit it.
Yeah, and the crazy part about Gordon is that like you can just drop it down as a weenie, and then if I'm playing against the Law or anyone that has all other weenies out, I can swing with it for one or like for 2K onto something small, and then bottom deck it to use its effect. I think it's one of the best cards. I wouldn't run any less than 4.
Yeah. All right. So standard here.
And then also like the reason why I actually started playing this deck was when I saw the Mass Deuce. It actually was the reason why I wanted to play it, because there's a central theme about this deck, and I think I mentioned it twice already, but it's all about controlling the board, popping stuff, and getting as much value as possible, and really trying to figure out ways to set your opponent behind.
Yeah, I definitely took the full brunt of that as your round 9 opponent.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh wow, you guys played?
Yeah, we
We
played
played
round
in
9.
round 9, and then I actually played against the other caster to go in the top 8. But we can talk about that.
Oh, at Arlington?
Yes.
Yeah, the Arlington.
Oh,
All right. But we did have the standard. Let's jump right back right here. 4 Vista, 4 Nico Robin, 4 Curly Dadan, and of course, because of how you describe your deck to control your board, control the playing field, the 4 Mass Deuce, of course. And like you said, extra 2K counter. That's what Otama 2K counter, Makino 2K counter, Mass Deuce 2K counter. I feel like
I think with this deck, like there's very rarely a time where I will have to decide between controlling the board or just rushing their face, because a lot of the time, because I'm controlling and always trying to control, I never have to actually go and try my luck at like burning them down before I die. And I hate that when I have to, gamble on the fact that, how many counters do they have in their hand? How many counters are they potentially going to draw? Most of my games comes down to a guaranteed lethal when I want it.
yeah. And of course, we have our standard 4 Zoro, 4 Ever Newgate, and we have 4 Luffys here. A lot of people were straying off of this Rush Luffy a lot because they prefer more counter or something to keep themselves alive. So, or they play less of them. But here I see you have 4 of them. Your thoughts on the 4?
Yeah, so I think the only change that people have done, and I think it's stemming from Noah's list, and just so everyone knows, I didn't create this list. Noel, sorry, I said Noah before, but his name is Noel. He's from Team Seafood King, and this is his original list. And the reason why I believe he teched in a Radical Beam and took down 1 Luffy is because this Luffy actually really only is good against like green decks. And if you expect to see a lot of red or just Whitebeards, other Luffys or Zoros, or even Law, it could that Radical Beam could come in handy. But same logic as Nicky is where I really don't like playing events, just because I don't I feel like if I run an event, it's not this. I guess just to say, I can run the event without actually running the event, right? Because if I have an extra Dawn to spare, or I feel like I want to put my opponent in an uncomfortable position, not everyone knows everyone's deck, right? Like, for example, me, Dylan, and Nicky, when we play, we know that, I know that Nicky doesn't run and Dylan doesn't run Jet Pistol, so I don't need to play around that. But in a large tournament, I can leave 1 Dawn up, and then they're going to be factoring in every single 1 drop, every single 1 event, and they'll assume that I have Radical Beam because, and if I can get like an extra Dawn or 2 out of their play, then that's always good for me.
Yeah, for sure. Because I definitely thought you had a Radical Beam when you did it.
Yeah, yeah. It was really nice to actually see other lists, not mine, win, because now people are going to be assuming that whatever I have open is going to be, a bunch of options. But most likely, I'll be changing my deck for this upcoming Treasure Cup, just because I think the meta is going to shift a certain way, but I'm not exactly sure. I might, keeping my options open right now. But it does make sense that if you're going to be dropping a card, that you're going to be dropping the Luffy because it doesn't have a counter on it, and this deck can get really bricky, especially if you're learning the deck for the first time. I know that the first couple of months or first couple of weeks that I played this deck, I would always complain about how I wouldn't see my counters, and then I really analyzed what I actually was doing, and I realized that I was I was making myself brick, if that makes sense. There's rarely a game where I actually like completely brick, and if I do, it's like a mega brick where I have like 7 cards in my hand and only 1K counter. But that shouldn't happen too often. And as I started to really understand how to play my own deck, that happened a lot less.
Yeah, it's always practice makes perfect. If you're not practicing the deck, you don't know how to play the deck.
Yeah, I think for me, whenever I mulligan or do my first 5 cards, I'm always like my goal is always looking for an early game. If I don't have a if I don't have a Nami on turn 1, but I have like a turn 2 play with 3 Dawn, or and a Luffy in hand for 5, and then maybe an Edward Newgate, then that's something I'll keep. As long as I have a decent start and I know what my ending is like, then I'll generally keep that hand.
Yeah. So now we're going into the events that you so don't like. We have 4 pistols and 2 Red Hawks. Your thoughts on the Red Hawk versus Radical Beam, or why 4 pistols go maxing it out versus like 2 or 3?
I think 4 is pretty necessary because there are some matchups where if you don't see a jet pistol, you're gonna lose. For example, Whitebeard. I usually try to mulligan for a jet pistol if I can, just because if they are, I'll generally try to go first, and with their 4 Dawn, they'll probably put down like an Atmos or something, and if I can just jet pistol that away, that essentially gives me another turn to keep my health pool high and also set them back a turn. And then also, I think with this new kid coming out, where it's like the control with 3 Yamatos, it's really important to see removal for those, and also just in general, like it's good into law, it's good into basically every single matchup.
Yeah,
And at the same time, it helps with the whole theme of the deck, which is like controlling the board and making sure that because you're not running blockers, you have to find ways to pressure them so that they are not hitting your life constantly.
Yeah, and then we have our 2 Red Hawks here. The same thing as Radical Beam essentially with the plus 4K, because you almost never use Radical Beam early on because you save it until you're at 2 or less. So essentially you have to take hits. If you're not taking hits, Radical Beam doesn't have the value that it normally does. Whereas Red Hawk is always plus 4,000, and you also have the secondary effect of KOing something on your opponent's character that's 4,000 or less. Like. Your thought on this, the Red Hawk, especially in the current meta where you're seeing a lot of laws, is that why you're doing Red Hawk, or is there something else to it?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a meta choice because honestly, if I had the choice, I would not run any Red Hawks at all. I'd probably run like 2 Namis or something. The rested Dawn Nami, just because, like I said before, I don't really like playing defensive with this deck. But how this deck works is that you don't like your worst turn is probably your 7 Dawn turn, and if you have Red Hawk in your hand, it also allows you to protect yourself until you go into your new gates, right? So a lot of the times, what I'll do with 7 Dawn is I'll play like a Luffy for 5 Dawn, swing 5 with leader, swing 7 with Luffy, and then I'll keep the 2 Dawn up so that I know that because Red Hawk can't really. If I'm playing like 1 Whitebeard the next turn, and then I end up getting a second Whitebeard, or already have 2 Whitebeards in my hand, this Red Hawk's not going to be used a lot. But at the same time, it allows me to set up my 9 gates, and also stay alive at the same time. Because your opponent's going to expect, if you have 9 Dawn, they're going to expect Whitebeard, and the last thing I want them to do is try to sneak under that Whitebeard by like hitting my life as much as possible, and then not allowing me to drop my Whitebeard. And I think the Red Hawk really helps with that. The trigger's not too bad. You shouldn't be expecting to use that trigger a lot of the times. Probably like I think for the 2 months that I've played this deck in this set, I've like probably got the trigger maybe 3 or 4 times total that actually mattered. Um, Other than that, it goes straight to my hand.
Yeah, having in your hand versus trigger. The trigger only really matters if like there's a 12-12 kick going in, or a swing with a little guy, hit it. Now you can use this trigger on like a white beard that's just sitting there doing nothing now.
Yeah, and it's really good against Dofis as well, just because I don't know why, but the Dofis that I play against, for some reason, they allow me to Red Hawk their Doflamingo that's like 4K, and if at the same time if they end up like hitting for 7 with their leader and then summoning something that is 4K, I could pop it right away.
Yeah, that is definitely a lot of value there, and you just don't know. You can't prepare for it because a lot of decks you when you play against red, you are expecting Radical rather than Red Hawk.
Mhm.
Every now and then you do have the Red Hawk, and it looks like a lot more players are leaning towards Red Hawk for the meta. It's, like you said, it's a meta call.
Yeah, it's good into law, and at the same time with the Dofi thing as well. Sometimes they're forced to actually still put. Wait, give me a second. There's sometimes they're just forced to put down their Dofi to search for their deck or like through their deck before they actually use their leader to summon whatever they searched for, and so I get a free pop on their blocker that way.
Yeah, for sure. But that is your entire list here. We have the Luffy leader, of course, for Tama, for Makino, for Searcher Nami, not Star Deck, for Gordon's, for the Don, for Mastus, for Vista, for Nico Robin, for Zoro, for Luffy, for Edward Newgate, for Pistol, and 2 Red Hawk. It's just fours all around, and then the 2 Red Hawks. Going consistency as much as possible. If you see it, you'll always see it.
Yeah, I definitely like to play Foros because I feel like if you're going for consistency, you want to make sure that your deck is in the same theme. For me, right here, this deck is centered around Whitebeard. The reason why I really wanted to play Whitebeard was because I realized, or Luffy was because I realized that Whitebeard with Luffy is the best leader for it because if you go double back to back Whitebeard, you can still use the Rested Dawn to activate his ability, swing, pop something, and then swing with phase. You can't really do that with Zoro, and you can't really do that with Whitebeard.
Yeah, you're right. And again, that 12k Papa swing, that's so strong. I mean, a lot of people can't stop that, 'cause especially when they're all weenie blockers or they have to block something because you're protecting their kid or take the hit. They just have to
Yeah,
accept a 12k hit.
there's a lot of utility with this deck, and it really is player like the player really matters because there's so many ways, just like Law. I mean, obviously not as much options as Law, but the way you play this deck actually really matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
definitely agree that like Red Luffy is just the best mono red leader out of the three, Zoro and Whitebeard.
Yeah, I think us three here, like we like playing decks that give us like enough options to be flexible with our play. Because especially in this game, the sequencing with this deck is super super important. Giving away as little as information as possible with everything every single move that you do, every single dawn that you place, and then also strategically understanding when you should be using your rested dawn. A lot of people will forget that I still have my like my Luffy ability active, and then they won't account for it. And I'm betting on that they won't account for it. So I'm really trying to figure out ways to have my opponent just not realize or not account for things when I'm with every play that I do.
yeah. So there you have it, John. Your deck right here. So there's another thing I want to talk about, like your matchups. I know it's been a week and then 2 weeks. Essentially, your matchups with going into each of the tournament. Would you happen to remember them, or like how each match went, or your thought process for those matchups?
Yeah, I think for the Treasure Cup, I played one smoker. Let me see here. One smoker, one law. I'm forgetting.
Don't worry about it. It's a long time. It's been a long time.
Oh man, I totally had it before, but basically I played a bunch of Whitebeards and Kinemons, and then one Smoker, one Law, and one other thing I totally forgot about. But oh, and one Zoro, sorry. And I think obviously I won all of them, but a lot of my matches were really lucky. For example, against Dylan, even though um, he didn't get his Bonnie and he didn't get his Law. I think we went back on the games, and I think Nicky found a sequencing that potentially could have given Dylan the win. And I was really feeling the pressure too because my hand was pretty bricky, and so I started drawing afterwards. But when he put me at 2 life, I actually thought it was over for me. But I ended up somehow winning. And then when I played against the Zoro, that actually should have been a loss, but I got really lucky on my last life. He decided to go for a 9 and then a 10, so he dropped his Zoro and swung for 9, and then I had to take life because I think I had like 2 cards in my hand at that point, and then my last life ended up being a Red Hawk, which brought his Whitebeard down to 0.
Yeah,
But if he went the other way, he would have won.
Oh
Oof.
wow.
Oh, yeah.
So and then other than that, yeah, it was smooth sailing. The with the other matchups because I really like the Whitebeard matchup, especially playing Whitebeard for the first 2 weeks, and I actually played Whitebeard on Sim for like once Long Beach the Treasure Cup was done, I was already playing set two, and I was really loving Whitebeard, but. I think at the time people really didn't know how to play against Whitebeard, so I was basically gaslighting myself and understanding like trying to figure out if this deck was actually good or not. But I was playing against people who just didn't know how to play against it.
Yeah, there's definitely a learning curve into playing against and playing with Whitebeard for a while. Like, what would
And the
be
same thing as like what Nicky said, right? Like the reason why he has his Nami in his deck is because he can start swinging into Whitebeard right away. I absolutely love that card. I think it's one of the best cards in this game, and so I decided to play it for my leader.
Yeah.
say I don't need a Nami. My leader does it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were your struggles for both days, really? Like both events, the regional and the Treasure Cup?
I think uh I mean the my struggles for the Treasure Cup was overcome by just high rolling a lot of my games. But for the regional, I always struggle against Doffy. I think Doffy is one of the harder matchups for me, especially if you go second. But depending on what kind of cards you draw, what kind of like cards you see from your searchers, it's going to dictate like what kind of play that you're going to do. So for example, like one of my games, I saw my first Nami searcher. I bottom deck 3 of my Whitebeards, and
Ooh.
luckily I had one Whitebeard in my hand, so I basically played around that. And I knew that that was the only Whitebeard I would see, so I needed as soon as I dropped that Whitebeard, I needed to be able to protect it and keep myself high. And so that game, I think I brought myself down to 2 health just because I needed the counters to when I actually dropped the Whitebeard, he was gonna stick. And basically, I think the only hard matchups for me is, yeah, I think Doffy would be one. I think Ivankov would be one, but you don't really see Ivankov, so I was betting against not seeing it. And at the same time, when you're playing in a big tournament, the way I see it is, if a person is trying to play Ivankov and go to top 8 or try to top the event, that's probably not going to be the case because Ivankov is just not that good right now. And if I do play against one, I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping that it's a skill difference and that I can overcome that.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think Law, high rolling Law, is the best deck in the game. There's nothing that can beat it. And then especially if it's a good pilot like Nicky or Dylan, I have to really be sitting forward and paying attention.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you mentioned it earlier. Inspiration for the deck. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, inspiration for sure is Noel. I actually didn't even know that this deck was Noel's deck. The reason I started playing was halfway through the PPG event where I bubbled out into 17th. Um, there was a person in my Discord who told me that who was talking about how he was like 7-0 or whatever right now. So I was like, "Holy shit, you're 7-0! Like, great, grats!" Because it's like a 4-person Discord. And I asked him for his list, and because I knew that he was playing Luffy, and I really like Luffy, so I just was curious about it. And when I saw the list, I immediately liked it, and I was just like, as soon as this event's over, I'm playing this deck. Later on, I found out that the person who actually made the deck was Noel, But at the same time, I think it was it was almost like a love at first sight because I knew how I wanted to play the game. I just didn't understand, or I didn't really do the research on understanding like how to play the game that I wanted to play. But when I saw this list, it kind of just like a light bulb went off, and I was like, this is it. And understanding the meta at the same time, I knew that the good players were gravitating towards Law because it does, have the best options in the game, and it really has a high skill ceiling. And at the same time, I know that a lot of players would like to turn off their brain and play Whitebeard, and Luffy kind of gives me a good chance against Whitebeard and gives me a good chance against Law.
Yeah, for sure.
Would
Being
you play
able
that
turning
first?
off your playing, it's definitely something a lot of people do. Same with Zoro and Whitebeard. A lot of people just turn off their play and just play them because it's fairly simple. It's straightforward.
Would you
What was
play
your-
that first event where you
What-
got 17th?
oh, I played Whitebeard for the Magic Carta, where I think I actually dropped after round 6 because I was already like 3-3 by then, and I didn't want to play anymore. And then I played the same exact deck with like Strawbeard, or not Strawbeard, Boatbeard, or Dickbeard as I like to call it. But the only changes I made was I took out the what was it? The Bartholomelos, the 2-drop Bartholomello with a 1K on it for choppers, because I realized that even though the Bartholomew had a 1K on it, I was dying because I just didn't have enough Dawn to play defensively with my event counters.
All right. One last question about this deck specifically. What would you change about it, if you change anything at all?
Honestly, I would change. I wouldn't change a thing about it. I would pray that I don't see a lot of reds that, and then at the same time, um, not having to change the deck would be actually the best solution for me, and praying that the meta actually conforms to this type of play style, because like I said before, I really don't like playing event counters.
Yeah. All right. So now we're gonna go back to Dylan and Nicky. So Dylan and Nicky, what were
Yeah,
your
go for it.
matchups?
Here, Dylan, you can start us off.
So I basically only played against red the whole treasure cup. But were like
Wow.
the whole treasure cup, it was either red or a deck that had red. The only exception was there was one Kaido. Yeah, so round 1 I played Whitebeard, round 2 was Zoro, round 3 was Luffy, round 4 was Zoro.
Fighting for your
Wow.
life over here.
Yeah.
He is.
Round 5 I played against an undefeated Kaido, which is crazy. Round 6 I played Whitebeard, and then I played 2 Laws back to back into John for another Luffy. So outside of the Kaido player, every single player had red.
I was taking my deck towards Law, and the only Law I saw was Dylan in the finals.
Yeah. I definitely casted one of your match too, like prior to the finals as well. That was amazing. Like it was
Yeah,
definitely interesting. We saw your deck. We looked at the list. We're like, oh, this is interesting. I've never seen someone play like this before. So we went right to the table, asked if we could stream. You guys said yes, and we streamed it.
Yeah, it was definitely different. I feel like a lot of people every time I played Dogra, especially on the online treasure, they're like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a moment to look up this card. Because yeah, it was like I read them the card and they just were like, that's really that card does all that? And then they're like, no, I have to double check this. I was like, no, take your time because like this card is broken.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's the same questions that I asked John. What were your thought process in each match going in?
So for Whitebeard, it's like very for me, I have like a mindset of like, oh, I want to see Don Nami, obviously. So I basically become Luffy. And I want to see like obviously you want to see your Bonnies, you want to see your blocker laws. In the law mirror, you basically only want to see like vistas and law, blocker law, because whoever can vista each other the most ends up typically winning the mirror. I think my round 7 opponent I played Jackson, and I just opened up triple vista and a law, and after that I was just like I was shambling every single turn, and he was I don't think he shambled till he had like essentially his 12th dawn. Yeah, so that matchup was like very like one-sided. And against Zoro, I same thing. You want to see like your Luffy's, you want to see You want to see your laws. You basically just want to, for Zoro, you want to like out resource them. Same thing with Luffy. Luffy, you have to play a little bit more aggressively. You don't want them to like drop Whitebeard and they're still at 5 life. At that point, you just lose.
Didn't you say that Kaido player was like undefeated against only laws?
Yeah, so the Kaido player that I played in round 5, he got the round 1 bye because someone couldn't make it, and then he played 3 Law players in a row and he beat all of them.
Wow.
And people were saying, "Oh, dude, like technically Law is supposed to lose to Kaido because they can 10 drop Kaido the board." But with Dogura, I was able to shamble on my turn 2 for Dawn, and I kind of just won the game. I don't think he had a single turn where he had 10 Dawn because he
Wow.
was constantly having to minus the pop, constantly having to play Queen to like stay alive on board. And I at some point, I was like, oh, if you hit 10 Dawn, I'm not even afraid because I had double Dogger in hand. I was able to shamble again next turn if I wanted to, even if he 10 dropped me.
Yeah, it's all about the setup. Like if you can set up and then if they nuke you, rebuild the board, you're perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think he was playing the Jailer Beast engine, so like my Zoros were just constantly getting in there because they're all just 5Ks, and I'm just constantly going 5 5 5 until he just like ran out of counter. He's like, "Oh, Hell's Judgment." I was like, "Okay, cool. Shambo, Law, Zoro again."
Yeah,
Like it's just too much gas. Yeah.
it really is. Now, your struggles. What were your struggles, if any at all?
There was a Luffy player that was really close. A lot of the games that are really close are the games that where I don't get to really abuse Bonnie. I feel like if you ever get a hand where you're able to loop your Bonnies and you're able to protect it every turn, it should be a straightforward win. There was a Zoro player one of the Zoro players got kind of close, but that's just like your typical Zoro. If they open Vista, Robin, and they're able to like jet pistol your first laws, the game gets like it becomes an uphill battle. But that was probably the closest one. My round 8, I actually misplayed. I decided to recklessly put my Makino to swing, and that for like a swing that wouldn't have mattered in that game because I was never gaming him that turn, and I should have kept a 2K counter in hand. But I ended up getting bailed out with my last life being a 2K counter.
Oh,
Yeah, so that round 8 technically should have been my loss. But I think he also kind of threw it when he just instant jet pistoled my Law because I think he probably could have used that Dawn a little bit more efficiently to get the cards out of my hand and win for a game.
He got baited by
Okay.
Yeah,
Jackets.
It's
yeah.
okay. Jackson,
the jet pistol.
Everyone sees Law and they go jet
Jackson,
pistol.
Jackson has enough Luffy's. He doesn't need a fourth one.
Yeah,
If I
yeah.
remember
No,
correctly, he's on 3 right now.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right,
It's-
but let's move on to Nicky. All right, Nicky, what were your matchups?
So I actually somehow played 7 greens out of 13.
Wow.
Yeah, that's actually kind of crazy to me. I did expect to see a couple kids because it won Australia, so I thought that was going to be really popular. But so yeah, so I saw 3 kids, 4 Kinemons, and this is all so the 9 rounds of Swiss and then the 4 rounds of Top Cut I played. So yeah, so I played 7 greens, and then a smoker, a Whitebeard, 2 Zoros, and 2 Luffy.
Wow.
like that meme. Dylan's on one side, fucking sweating his balls off, like 1,000 APM, and Nicky's over there just like dancing and singing while he's just playing his turns.
It's like, oh, just another green. Oh, green again.
Nah, it's like it's easy, but it's also hard at the same time because if you misplay at all, and if you don't play correctly, they will definitely take advantage and just kill you.
I
Yeah.
think that's really the theme of this game, and that's why it's so exciting. Is like one little misplay on a player that is equivalent skill as you, and it's going to be a very, very close game.
For sure. Now,
And so,
what about your thought process
Mhm.
going through the matches?
I-
Mainly green, since that is what you go against.
yeah, no, honestly, it's the same with everything. You just want to swing at like the base number every time because you swing 5, you just swing 5 5 5 to everyone, and they're dropping a card out of their hand. Like I'm not really thinking about the counter amount because a 1K and a 2K are like the same to me, and usually the 1K counters are playable cards anyway, and the cards that are 2K counters are cards that you cannot play,
Yeah,
or like they just do nothing.
yeah, most of them are just stuck in your hand. Like even Ezo, like I don't feel good playing Ezo ever when I play green. Like, I'd rather have it as a 2K, and when I am playing it as a character, it's so I can rest like a big block or something that I need to get rid of. But outside of that, I'd prefer it in my hand if I can.
Yeah, so all the kid players, they all actually dropped 8-drop kid on me, and they all actually stuck on the board for a couple of turns. One of them even dropped 2 8-drops on me, and
Wow.
and I still won. I beat all of them.
Yeah.
And looking at this list, you might think it's hard for me to out 8-drop kid because I don't have a pistol. It's like Otama Jet Pistol is like
The
I
standard.
guess the immediate answer to that.
Yeah.
But you got
Right.
the Luffy's.
Yeah, having unblockable Luffy is really key, not only for kid but just for green in general, because they don't have an easy way of outing it. They have to play like a Yamato just to rest it, and then they have to be able to attack into it multiple times. And they have is blockers. So if you put them down to 1, and you go, I think in like at least 2 of my games where I put them down to 1 really early, and I played Luffy, and I wouldn't swing with it, and I would just go like 12-12 or 14-14 to their face in the following turn.
With a second Luffy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But here, since we you guys talked about it earlier on how you were the originator on the deck, what's your inspiration for it? I didn't ask Dylan this because we talked about you being the original from here.
I guess usually when I'm like a meta whore when it comes to like I play multiple card games. I usually just try playing what I think is the best deck, and I just thought this was the best deck, and I still think that. I kind of got worried when John won the Treasure Cup the week before, and that was gonna make a lot of people swap to Luffy. But at the end of the day, I think I
Pilot
think,
really matters at the same
yeah, I think
time.
the
for both
pilot really
matchups.
matters, and I still think the win rate is just positive on everything. I don't think there's a single deck that's in the meta right now that has a positive win rate against this build in my testing.
This build specifically, not Law, but like this specific build. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And don't make a
And
mistake.
To expand on that, to expand on that too, like whenever I play against a Law, I'm usually not that scared unless it's either Dylan or Nicky, because their deck is designed to, like you said, like swing 5, and my deck is also designed to swing 5 for base as much as possible, but he can do it a lot more. So usually it comes down to just being able to see that your opponent has 2 cards left in his hand, and then after that it's just all math.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there you have it. You have Dylan, Nicky, and John. My final question for all 3 of you: do you guys have anyone or any place you want to give shout outs to?
Go first, Nicky.
I dang. All right, here, Dylan, you can go first.
Oh God! I mean, shout out to all the locals, right, that we play in the area, and everyone that we play at the locals, because they're actually like the main reasons why we got as good as we do, because they're consistently showing up to like 6, 7, maybe even 8 locals a week, and we're seeing the same familiar faces. So we're like growing as a community. The locals that I primarily go to is like the Black Zone Owl, CoreTCG, Project CCG, Wildcard Cyclone, and Game Seller. Those are usually the stores that I hit up every week. Yeah, shout out to Nicky for actually teaching me and making this list, because without him, I 100% wouldn't have ever touched Law in my life. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Shout out to just all the local people. They're all so great, really friendly people. Shout out to all the stores, all our friends. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's just shout out to the creator of the deck, who is Noel Lim. And then also Corey, who was the person who brought me onto this list because I don't think I ever would have saw, or maybe I would have seen it, but I would have saw it much later. I don't really have that much time on my hands, so usually for me, if I see a list that I like, I'll take that list and I'll make tweaks to it if I needed to. But for this list, it kind of was just perfect for me. So I didn't really make any changes. But again, like Dylan and Nicky said, our local players are actually insane. I truly believe that we have like the best, 2 to 3 players here that are the best smokers in the game. We have, the 2 or 3 players here that whenever I play against them and they play Whitebeard, it's really close, and I usually have a negative win rate against them to the point where I'm just questioning everything I do from that point on. So when we went to, when I played at the Treasure Cup and I played in at regionals, I already was able to see every single thing that could potentially go wrong because it has gone wrong for me in the past, just because of the players I played against. Where if they see you make a mistake or if they see something that they can do that will really put you behind, it'll most likely be that they see it and they will do it. And so getting punished a lot, losing a lot to them really helped me grow. And when I went to the main stage, it was kind of just like playing players who were maybe not playing as best as they could have with the deck, and I was able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, I have one more shout out. Shout out to Johnny and Jessica's sticker company, Otaku Collectives. Check them
Oh
out.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. We all were wearing their stickers, and every single person that had a sticker on at regionals, we were doing really well.
Yeah. Everyone that in the SoCal that tops have a sticker on. So
Yeah,
shout out to them.
sticker power right there.
Yeah, one of them even won the side event chopper event in Pod 1.
Oh yeah.
And it got me to the finals of Pod 4.
Oh, nice. Almost there.
Almost there. Almost there. Lost to myself.
But congratulations for all 3 of you. We'll be seeing more of the 3 of you in the future, right? Not just at the
course, yeah.
Nats, but like actual events like Treasure Cup regionals, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
100%.
For sure. If time allows me to play it, I will play it. This game is amazing, and I think I mean the anime is great. The game's amazing. It just so happened the game is incredible because I used to be a Hearthstone player, but the last TCG I played, if you can even call Hearthstone a TCG, was Hearthstone, and that was like 6 years ago. So I really had to relearn a lot of the things I forgot about. And so it was really rocky at the beginning, but with the help of Nicky and Dylan, right from the get go, I was able to catch up and get to where I am now.
Oh, yeah. But thank you guys. We'll see you
Thank you
in
for
the
having
future.
us.
Yeah. I'm happy to have you guys. Like this was fun. Like, it was a very fun conversation. It's not just an interview. It's not just the deck list. It's about connecting with the community and giving your thoughts out.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
agree.
I appreciate you having us. It's always fun to talk about One Piece.
Yeah.
This
It
game is
feels
great.
so good to like be able to just talk about my list because I remember ever since set 2, people would ask me about my list, and I would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm keeping it a secret." And it's having to say that just like breaks my heart because I want to help other people improve. I also want to improve, and yeah,
But now your list is out there. Like you made an accomplishment, and now your list is out there. Everyone sees it, and of course they have questions. And because they have questions, we now have answers for them. But like I said, thank you guys all. I hope you have a great night, and see you again in the future, both online and offline.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
thank you.